Welcome to another edition of the Rundown. Going to be breaking down Monday Night Football, a couple other NFL topics, and want to talk a little bit about the Thunder. But first, want to break down Monday Night Football. The Chargers won 22-19. Not the greatest day for Jalen Hurts, 21 of 40, 240 yards, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Justin Herbert, not exactly the greatest day for him either. 12 of 26, 139 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. First, got to give credit to the Chargers. Justin Herbert played through a lot of pain, broken left hand and whatnot, had to get surgery on it, and kudos to him for pulling out the dub. I know his stat line didn't exactly look amazing, but he made the plays he needed to, and he didn't turn the ball over a whole lot. Well, he turned it over a couple times, so 2 less than Jalen Hurts, which was important. But the big story of this game is the 4 interceptions for Jalen Hurts, and some of them were just flat out bad. Second quarter, 8 minutes, down 73, he just flat out threw it to Deshaun Hand, and funnily enough, Will Shipley punched it out and Hurts got it back, and he should have just fell on the ball, but he didn't, and he fumbled it, and the Chargers recover. I've been watching the NFL for more than 10 years now. I think that I've pretty much seen everything you needed to see, but a quarterback turning it over 2 times in one play, I don't think I've ever seen that before. I think that's going to go down in lore for sure. He should have just fell on the ball. If he did, you live to see another day. You potentially get 3 points. Who knows if Jake Elliott misses the kick or not, but now we'll never know. Chargers from that turnover get a field goal to go up 10-3, and guess what? Once the Eagles get the ball back, Hurts comes back and throws another interception. I don't know if that interception was a miscommunication between him and Devontae Smith, but it certainly looked bad. If a smart NFL mind says that it was a miscommunication and Devontae Smith didn't run the route that he was supposed to run, I'll buy it, but nonetheless, Hurts had his second interception of the day. End of the second quarter, though, Justin Herbert got hit as he threw an interception, and the Chargers got an unnecessary roughness call. So the Eagles got good field position, but Jake Elliott missed a 48-yard field goal, which loomed large. I want to move ahead to the fourth quarter, a little under 12 minutes in the fourth. Chargers are up 16. Eagles are up 16-13. They got a little 52-yard touchdown from Saquon, so all the momentum is on their side. And Jalen Hurts, he just throws it to A.J. Brown over the middle. The ball was a little bit high, and it got picked off. Wasn't exactly an ideal throw, but it's a catch that A.J. Brown has to make. If you're the number 1 receiver and you've been complaining the way he's been complaining all season, you got to make that catch. And sometimes as a wide receiver, you just got to help your quarterback out. And in that instance, he didn't help his quarterback out. Chargers come down and tie it at 16-16. And I want to move to the end of the fourth quarter where the Eagles have a chance to potentially put it away. They're down 19-16 with about 2 minutes and 27 seconds left. It's 2nd and 11. Hurts, he threw a beautiful ball to A.J. Brown in the end zone, but Brown was just not able to catch it. The defender did a pretty good job of covering him, but I still think that it's a ball that he could have catched. I mean, sure, it is a difficult catch, but nonetheless, he's a number 1 receiver, and he just has to make that play. And, if the Eagles go up, 23-19, I think they pretty much win that game because it didn't look like the Chargers were really any capable of getting into the end zone. But anyways, we get to overtime. Chargers, they get the ball first. They kick a field goal. So Eagles, they just need a touchdown to win. And yeah, it's a 3rd and 16 in overtime. Hurts gets it to Devontae Smith, and I'm like, okay, it's the end of the game. He's starting to turn it up now. He's just playing loose and free like we've seen him play before at the end of games. He's going to make up for his sins and his other 3 turnovers. And then Hurts throws his 4th interception trying to get it to Smith, and it was just a flat-out bad throw. And this is the 3rd, 4th straight L for the Eagles, and I don't want to go through the process of, can the Cowboys make the playoffs or not, because I don't know, it's just at this point, and plus the Cowboys have to win out, and the Eagles have to lose a couple more games. They play Washington twice, they play the Raiders, and they play the Bills. They can certainly lose against Washington once, even if Jaden Daniels doesn't play, which he probably won't, and they have a good chance of losing against the Bills, but the Cowboys have to win out. So, I mean, I guess once we get to that point, we can talk about whether or not the Cowboys are making the playoffs. But going back to Hurts, I just can't defend him on this one. I've long blamed the coaches, thinking that they were incompetent and they're not capable of doing anything, and they haven't surrounded him with a good offensive system, and that's why he's not succeeding. And I've seen coaches make players look bad. We saw this with Jeff Fisher in the Rams when he was with Jared Goff his rookie season, and he made Jared Goff look like a horrible player. But then Sean McVay comes in, and what do you know? All of a sudden, Jared Goff starts to look pretty damn good. The coaching staff isn't elite by any means, but they're certainly competent. I mean, they did win a Super Bowl. I mean, Howie Roseman, he helped Nick Sirianni a lot by giving him a great roster, but still, like I said before, there are a lot of coaches who wouldn't have been able to win with that roster. But after listening to other people, I guess maybe there's a reason why they're running a rudimentary offense. Nick Sirianni, I'm sure he knows how to run high level concept plays. Kevin Patullo, who knows if that guy's a good offensive coordinator or not, but I'm sure he doesn't want to run rudimentary offensive play. But I guess they're doing it because they just don't trust Jalen Hurts to throw the ball like that. And as shown by Monday night, I guess maybe they have the right reason to believe that he's not capable of throwing the ball like that. And it looks like he needs a good running game and elite wide receivers to function better and a great offensive line. And, I guess it is what it is. And he's shown that if you're capable of giving him that, then he can win you a Super Bowl. Because at least in the playoffs, I mean, he's one of the more confounding players I've ever had to analyze, because in the regular season, than that 2022 season where he finished second in MVP to Patrick Mahomes, he's pretty much just been blah for the most part in the regular season. But in the playoffs, he's played really well outside of that loss to Tampa Bay. So I don't really get it. People compare him to Russ, and those comparisons make sense. But I got to say, Russ in his prime, even though he wasn't a pocket passer and he also needed to move around in the pocket like Hurts, he could make great throws down the field in tight windows, which is something that it doesn't look like Jalen Hurts is all that capable of doing, despite having elite wide receivers. Russ in Seattle never really had an elite wide receiver. I mean, DK Metcalf, I think there was one season where he might have made an All-Pro, but other than that, he really didn't have elite wide receivers. He just had the Doug Baldwins, the Tyler Lockett's, and those wide receivers of the world. Didn't have a guy like AJ Brown or Devontae Smith for the most part of his career in Seattle. So there is that. And plus, Russ has had to play with bad offensive lines and running games, and he's carried those teams to the playoffs. It doesn't seem like Jalen Hurts is doing that. I know the offensive line isn't great this year and the running game is great this year, but the Eagles have a hell of a defense, and Russ had to play with some bad defenses in Seattle. A.J. Brown, on the other hand, he's got to be better. You can't just complain and then come up that small when your team needs you. He took ownership of it, but going forward, he's just going to need to be better. And I guess in the long run, it's not going to really matter that much because he's probably going to be off this team once the season is over. There's not a chance, I imagine, that he's going to want to stick with the Eagles. And I'm sure the Eagles probably don't want him around either. I mean, they had to get a good vibes bunny in the locker room. And I'm not saying that's all A.J. Brown, of course. I'm not saying that he's the sole reason why there's so many bad vibes in the Eagles locker room, but that is weird to just bring a good vibes bunny. I don't know any other winning organization that does that. That just seems weird, and it just seems like they're, reaching. So I don't know. We'll see how it all works out with the Eagles. They play the Raiders this Sunday, and I'm sure that should be a get-right game because there's not a chance in hell the Raiders are going to win that game or any other game in this regular season. So we'll see how the Eagles look after that, where they kind of play stiffer competition, and I know that's crazy to say about the Commanders. Now I want to move on to Phillip Rivers. The Colts worked him out this past Monday night, and it looks like they're putting him on the practice squad, and it looks like he has a pretty good chance of starting against Seattle this Sunday. Riley Leonard has a knee injury, and then we all know that Anthony Richardson is on IR. I know that the Colts are banged up at QB, but I mean, come on. Is this the best you can do? Phillip Rivers is all that you can think of. Like I said, he's old, he's immobile, and even when he was younger, he wasn't all that mobile. I guess there has to be some juice left in his arm, because if there wasn't any juice left in his arm, the Colts wouldn't have signed him. And according to reports, he's done a pretty good job of working out, staying in shape. He was coaching his son's high school football team. And I think their thought process is, the Colts, that he knows Steichen's system pretty well. He was working with Steichen when he was in San Diego. He was Steichen was Rivers' quarterback coach, but it's going to take time for Rivers to acclimate himself with his new teammates, and his teammates understanding the snap count and where his receivers like the ball. That's all going to take time, and I don't know why Phillip Rivers would subject himself to this. I mean, they're going to play Seattle, San Francisco, Houston, Jacksonville, and that's quite a gauntlet to go through, and that's a crazy beating to take, excuse me. And I guess he must really love the game, because why else would you want to just, subject yourself to that? And he's really insane to think that he has a chance against those defenses. I don't know. This just shows that the Colts are really, really desperate. I don't know what other quarterbacks were out on the market, but I mean, I'd have to imagine they'd look better than Phillip Rivers. I mean, if he plays well, this will be like out of a movie, because that would be totally insane. But I don't know. I think the Colts are probably screwed. They just don't have it this year, and it's kind of disappointing because they started out 8-2, and it looks like they're going to have a collapse like the Jaguars did in 2023, and they're going to miss the playoffs, which is really unfortunate because it looked like it was shaping up to be a good year for the Colts. But I don't know. Things just took a turn for the worse. You lose a couple games. Daniel Jones tears his Achilles, and yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. They're going to need to find a quarterback solution for next year. I don't know if it's going to be Riley Leonard, or I don't know, maybe they'll sign somebody else, but I don't know who the hell is on the market. Anyways, I want to talk about Seattle, who the Colts are playing this Sunday. Haven't talked about them in the past couple weeks because honestly, Seattle hasn't really played any premier competition whatsoever, and the games weren't really all that interesting. They played against Minnesota, blew them out 26-0. Played against Atlanta and blew them out 37-9. And the offense for the past couple of weeks has started off a little bit slow, which I'm not liking. I mean, against Minnesota, they were up 13-0 at halftime, but against Atlanta, it was tied 6-6 at halftime until Seattle just started blowing the doors off of them. But as you can see, the defense is goddamn amazing. Number one in DVOA, number two in pass DVOA, number one run defense in DVOA, and they just got athletes on their team, and they just look physical as hell, which is a sign of a great defense. And honestly, if you look at Seattle's losses so far, it isn't too bad. They lost against the Rams, who are the number one seed, and Matthew Stafford is having an MVP level season. They lost against the Rams in the season opener, when they were more healthier, and even with all their injuries, they're still in the playoff race. I mean, they're currently the 7th seed, and they lost against Tampa Bay, where as of now it kind of looks like they're going to lose that division to Carolina, but they play Carolina twice, so we'll see if Tampa Bay is able to turn it around. But even if Tampa Bay doesn't make the playoffs, that's still not a bad loss, because those first 5 or 6 weeks, Baker was on an absolute heater, and people were putting him in MVP conversations, and I was one of those people because he was amazing. So, potentially the 3 losses they have, they're going to be against playoff teams. And now this is where the schedule starts to get tougher, and this is where they can show their mettle. Obviously, they got the Colts this Sunday, and like I talked about, that quarterback situation is an absolute mess. So I think Seattle should be able to get the dub. They got the Niners, and they got Carolina, who isn't exactly a pushover. But I think the dubs they need to get are against the Rams and Niners. It just doesn't look good to get swept by teams in your division, and plus it'll just prove that you're just not on those guys' level yet if you're not able to win at least one of those games. And Mike Macdonald has done a great job this season, but I think getting those wins will elevate him to the next level for sure. Not to say that if he loses those games he's a bad coach or whatever. He's certainly shown to me and to Seattle fans that he's a pretty damn good coach, and defensively he's a mastermind. But beating the Rams and Niners is just important because that's something that Pete Carroll was not able to do once Russ left. So we'll see if he can get it back to that. But we're getting back to foundational parts of Seattle football, kind of like in the 2010s, playing physical smash mouth football, letting the quarterback make big plays. Obviously, we can't run the ball like in the 2010s with beast mode and whatnot, but I like how we're running the ball just to keep teams honest. Sometimes I think Seattle can run the ball a little bit too much, but nonetheless, I like it. And I think in a playoff game, Sam Darnold is capable of winning you one for sure. There's going to be times where a quarterback needs to throw, and I think Sam Darnold, he's definitely capable of throwing the ball, whether it's for a drive or an entire quarter. And I know he's had some bad games, of course, last year with the season finale against Detroit and the playoff game against the Rams where he took like 9 sacks or whatever. But I think he's definitely shown improvement. I mean, there are still games where he throws mind-boggling interceptions like that 4 interception game against the Rams, but he's certainly getting better and he's not taking sacks like he used to. So I'm excited to see what Seattle does as the season moves along and we start to play more tougher competition. Now I want to talk about OKC. This team is 23-1, and I'm seriously wondering whether or not this team can win 73 games. I didn't think that it would be done again. I just thought with better players, more parity in the league, that 73 wins would not be reached again. But it looks like the Thunder have a pretty good shot, and they have an offensive rating of 121.4 and a defensive rating of 105.4. For context, the 2015-2016 Warriors had a 114.5 offensive rating, and a 103.8 defensive rating. Currently, the Thunder have the 7th highest offensive rating of all time. 4 of the teams ahead of them are actually included in this season. I know that offensive rating, you can't take that stat too seriously and you have to take it with a grain of salt, but I still think it's a good stat to look at. I mean, as we move further and further along in the NBA, there's going to be a new team who has the new highest offensive rating of all time. But I think offensive rating shows, like, kind of how good your team is. But the Thunder do have a 16.1 point differential. The Warriors, that 2015-2016 season where they won 73 games, had a 10.7 point differential. Although the Warriors had a higher strength of schedule, they had like the most back-to-backs. The Thunder have had a much easier strength of schedule. Uh, so that's something that you kind of have to give the edge to the Warriors, but the Thunder have been way more banged up. Jalen Williams missed the first few months of the season. Chet Holmgren has kind of been in and out. He's playing more recently, consistently, and Lou Dort and Harnstein have been out. So you got to give credit to OKC in that regard, and they have a lot of good depth. And I want to talk about SGA. It's kind of crazy how this guy was MVP last season, but he's actually gotten better, kind of like Steph in that 2015-2016 season. Not as vast as that, but he's still certainly gotten better. He's averaging 32.8 points per game, 6.4 assists per game, and 4.7 rebounds per game on 55.6% from the field, 44.3% from three, and 88.1% from the free throw line. And he has a good chance to be the first player since Steph to average 50, 40, 90, averaging 30 points a game, which before Steph had never been done before. KD did it one season where he was averaging 28 points per game. Larry Bird did it one season where he was averaging 29.9 points per game, and Steve Nash did it where he was averaging like 15, 16 points per game, but nobody ever did it averaging 30 points per game. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has a chance to be the second player to do that since Steph. One thing I'll say about Steph is that when he averaged 50, 40, 90, he was shooting 11 threes a game, which is more impressive. Shai is averaging around 5 threes attempted per game, so a little bit less in attempts, but still, nonetheless, still crazy to do 50, 40, 90. As of now, the Thunder deserve to be the favorites in the West and just the favorites overall to win the championship. I know this is still a little bit crazy. I've said this before, but I still think that the Lakers, Nuggets, and Rockets have a good chance of upsetting them. I guess not a good chance. They have a puncher's chance. I'd put Denver first in that class. Jamal Murray has elevated his game, and Denver definitely has a better bench than they had before. Lakers, I like the talent, of course, with Luka, LeBron, and AR, but I'm going to be interested to see how they continue to reintegrate LeBron. He was awesome against Philly. 29 points, definitely his best game of the season. It looks like he's starting to get his feet under him, but Luka and AR like to dominate the rock. But you know what? LeBron will fit in, as he said in his media scrum, but I'm just interested to see how it'll look in the playoffs. Luka likes to dominate the ball, and the Thunder have a bevy of defenders to throw at him. And, against Boston, Luka struggled because, he of course had a knee sprain, so he was playing banged up, and you got to give him credit for that. But B, Boston had a bevy of guys to throw at him, whether it was Brown, Tatum, Holiday, Derek White, and they also had a bunch of ball handlers to go at him. So It'll be interested to see if the Thunder can use that formula, but I think Luka probably has a better team with the Lakers than he did with the Mavericks that season. They went to the NBA Finals, uh, and it'll be interesting to see if Reeves can come through. I mean, he's played pretty decently in the playoffs, but it'll be interesting to see if he can play well against a team like OKC, which is just a well-oiled machine. Denver, of course, is also kind of an well-oiled machine. Like I talked about, Jamal Murray's been awesome. I think he should make his first All-Star game this season. They got more bench, not more than OKC though. Nobody has more bench than OKC. Starting five for starting five, I think Denver can match up pretty well with OKC, but it'll just depend on which stars come through and which bench comes through. The Rockets, on the other hand, they have one of the top offenses, but they get a lot of second chance opportunities. Amin Thompson, it looks like he's still trying to figure out his role, but the Rockets, at least the number one and number two options, are solidified with KD and Şengün. But the Rockets not having another ball handler concerns me for the playoffs, where it just becomes more physical, and I don't trust Aaron Holiday and Reed Shepherd in the playoffs. Maybe they'll prove me wrong, but I just don't trust those guys. And I know that the Rockets are winning games, and Şengün is kind of their point guard in the half court, but I still think that you need another ball handler. But playoffs are a different animal. Physicality gets taken up a notch, and the season is still a long ways away from being over. We'll see how much OKC can separate themselves from the rest of the pack, and if Houston, uh, the Lakers, and Denver have a chance to near get have a chance to get near them. But I think OKC will probably still be the number one seed. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys. I will be back this Monday, not going to record this Friday, and I will be breaking down all the stuff that happened in Week 15 in the NFL, storylines, matchups, which teams are trending up and which teams are trending down. And yeah, thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe. Thank you so much.